Mr.
Steve,
President,
thank
if
you
I'm
very much.
one more
it.
question. I want to ask about a court hearing yesterday on January 6th. Judge Amit Mehta, he's gone. Okay.
That was former President Donald Trump noping out of an interview with NPR, which is fun. So now, basically, the entirety of the interview, of course, that he had with NPR, which, by the way, fun story, NPR's been trying to get him on for 6 years. 6 years. And they tried to book him for about 15 minutes. He stayed for approximately 9. And, of course, in those 9 minutes, Trump went on about nonsense conspiracy theories about, of course, the 2020 election, which he is obsessed about, and has been bitching about for about, at least a year? Yeah, probably longer. Probably longer. But anyway, now the host, Steve Inskeep, he kept pushing back, which is good. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. But now the thing is that when you push back against Donald Trump, it is essentially like hitting your forehead against a wall repeatedly. Just endless. That wall ain't moving, and you're just going to end up with a headache. And so throughout that interview, again, you had Inskeep pushing back, Donald Trump getting super irritated, because unlike Newsmax interviews, NPR was actually doing facts and not just agreeing with everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. In fact, I'm going to show you a little bit of a mashup of all the times Inskeep had to push back against Donald Trump's just insane falsehoods. Take a look.
I just have to point out Doug Logan, to name one of the states that you just named. Doug Logan, who ran the audit in Arizona that was set up by your allies, didn't find serious problems. This is a quote: "The ballots that were provided to us to count in the Coliseum very accurately correlate with the official canvass numbers." He raised a bunch of administrative issues, but didn't find a problem that would have changed the result at all. Why did
states are just as bad.
Why did Republican officials in Arizona accept the results then?
Because they're rhinos.
Brett Ludwig, U.S. District Court in Wisconsin, who was nominated by you in 2020. He's on the bench, and he says, quote, "This court allowed the plaintiff the chance to make his case, and he has lost on the merits." Another quote, Corey Langhofer, your own campaign attorney in Arizona, November 12, 2020, quote, "We are not alleging fraud in this lawsuit. We are not alleging anyone stealing the election." And also Rudy Giuliani, your lawyer, November 18, 2020 in Pennsylvania, quote, "This is not a fraud case. Your own lawyers had no evidence of fraud. They said in court they had no evidence of fraud, and the judges ruled against you every time on the merits."
Is it true that there were far more votes than there were voters?
It is not true that there were far.
Tough thing.
It is not
a pretty
true.
tough problem.
It is not true that there were far more votes than voters. If you'll forgive me, maybe because the election was about you. If I can just move on.
Oh, that's pretty good. So, like, every time he's like, look, no, that's not true. Any of that, like, no, there weren't more voters. No. So now what's interesting is I wish journalism always worked like this. It doesn't matter who's sitting in the seat, Democrats or Republicans. I want tough questions. And I want questions that, tough but fair, obviously, and that are based on factual information. I'd love to see a corporate Democrat get grilled on this, and sometimes they do. And it's fantastic. So yes, that is how journalism is supposed to work. Everything that Inskeep said about the election was true. Now, Inskeep also brought up, he actually agreed with Trump during one portion of it by saying, which again is factually correct, that Donald Trump got more votes as a sitting president in any election. Again, totally true, right? Now, of course, the reason being that Trump had excited a lot of non-voters to vote in these elections in both 2016 and 2020. As we all know, voter apathy in this country is just abysmal. And so you only have a small chunk of eligible voters that normally voted, but in this last election, 160 million Americans. So now in 2020, the stakes were really, really high. And so, one of the reasons, of course, is the pandemic. And so more people turned out, simply put. And honestly, that's not even why Donald Trump lost. He lost because of the Electoral College. It's not because Joe Biden got more of the popular vote, right, by 7 million. No, he lost the Electoral College, because in this country we have a system where a few, thousands of, tens of thousands of voters in swing states or certain areas, they somehow get to decide the election for the rest of us instead of having a election or direct democracy. And so that said, even voters in the swing states, there weren't enough of them. There just weren't enough of them. And so, I mean, and by the way, there weren't enough of them in 2020. There were enough of them in 2016, even though the fact that Donald Trump still lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton by 3 million votes, and then again to Joe Biden in 2020 by 7 million. And so that's how the system works. But here's the thing. While 2016 was about Hillary Clinton, mainly, being the face of the establishment, 2020 wasn't about Joe Biden. It was about Donald Trump. And so I'll say that any corporate Democrat would have beaten Donald Trump by some margin because of how badly Trump bungled COVID and how people, in their own words, wanted to go back to normal. And that's essentially it. And so that's the situation. All right. Now I'm gonna show you one more video here from this interview, and it actually has to do with a good question about, does Donald Trump expect the Republican Party to continue to talk about this election, and do they need to do that to have Trump's support?
Are you telling Republicans in 2022 that they must press your case on the past election in order to get your endorsement? Is that an absolute?
They're going to do whatever they want to do. Whatever they have to do, they're going to do. But the ones that are smart, the ones that know, you take a look at how Carrie Lake is doing, running for governor. She's very big on this issue. She's leading by a lot. People have no idea how big this issue is, and they don't want it to happen again. It shouldn't be allowed to happen, and they don't want it to happen again. And the only way it's not going to happen again is you have to solve the problem of the presidential rigged election of 2020.
Mr. President, if I'm...
Wait,
one more question. I want to ask about a court hearing yesterday on January 6th. Judge Amit Mehta, he's gone. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, it was pretty much that. And that's when he had enough. So now, to get to the substance of this, right? Donald Trump has the Republican Party captured. To kind of answer that question, yes, Republicans will have to continue to support these election nonsense lies, or at least come out with like vague statements like, oh, the voter fraud and all of that stuff, in order to at least get Donald Trump's support. And earlier in the interview, he was talking about Mike Rounds and how Mike Rounds, what a rhino, because he said that we lost the 2020 election. I didn't lose. I won very bigly. And so, now look, this is, I mean, I've given you the polls before where about 2/3 of all Republicans think that Biden stole the election from Trump. I mean, this is just total insanity. And so when it comes to the Republican Party, they've got a problem. If Donald Trump runs in the 2024 election, he's probably going to win the next primary. Again, I don't know for certain because it's still pretty far away, but so far, Donald Trump is crushing everyone. An October Quinnipiac University poll showed that among Republicans, 78% of them would like to see Donald Trump run again. Now, what's this whole thing that the Democrats keep saying? Oh, we want a strong Republican Party. Gee, why would you want that? I'll get into that in other segments, but basically, you have other polls that show Donald Trump being ahead of everybody else, including Ron DeSantis, who now Donald Trump is attacking, Ted Cruz, of course, and many others. And so everybody, anybody who runs, if Donald Trump doesn't, anybody who runs, and anybody who runs in any office for the Republican Party is going to have to get the approval of Donald Trump, essentially. So they've made that bed. Now they're going to have to sleep in it. Finally, let me just do one more kind of nonsense point. So as I mentioned, NPR tried to set up that interview for 6 years. And since it was not a softball interview, Donald Trump didn't want to do it up until now. And then even promising them 15 minutes was too much of a sad little baby. Didn't want to hear the truth, got super triggered, by facts and information, and even the gentlest pushback from NPR. Again, he asked good questions, and it was pushback, but it's like super nice pushback. It's super professional. Again, what do you expect from NPR, right? Even though I think that they did a good job on this one, it was too much. Too much. Can't handle those questions. Got super triggered, and then hung up. And that's it. Baby, sad.